Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Graymalkin Lane, the podcast where queer friends gather to review and discuss the original X-Men comics from the 1960s. I'm your host, Chad Anderson. We are here in a video format this time, meeting over Zoom for the first time. Normally, we are down in the basement at my home together recording only audio, so we're thrilled to have a new format to share with you guys. Last week, we talked all about issue number 8 of the X-Men, called The Uncanny Threat of Eunice the Untouchable. It was amazing, right, Heather?
Yes.
With Professor X off in Europe pursuing the mysterious villain Lucifer, Cyclops was left in charge of the team, and he pushed his team pretty hard to be perfect. They were not necessarily enjoying his leadership. After humans attacked the Beast quit the X-Men, and we got to add some retroactive continuity. Right at that moment is when, in 2013, Brian Michael Bendis, in charge of the X-Men, brought the whole original team forward to the future. So make sure to check out this special episode after number 8, where I talk about all of their time travel adventures. At that point, they were put back into the original continuity with their memories wiped, because, you know, that's how things work in comic books. They returned to the present with their memories lost. Beast launched a wrestling career. He met Eunice the Untouchable, who was an evil mutant with a powerful force field. Beast rejoined the team, then defeated Eunice by enhancing his powers to the point that Eunice lost control. Now the X-Men are back together, and Professor X is in Europe going after Lucifer. So welcome to Graymalkin Lane episode 9, called Enter the Avengers. I'm your host, Chad Anderson. My pronouns are he, him, his. Back with me is my dear friend, Heather. And we are joined by the hosts of one of my very favorite podcasts, The Powers of X, with Dylan and Regina. I'll let you guys introduce yourselves in just a moment. Did I say the title wrong?
Yeah, we're House of X.
I am so sorry. It really is. I listen every episode. I apologize for the flub there.
You're fine.
One of my very favorite podcasts, the House of X, with hosts Dylan and Regina. These two are hilarious and thought-provoking and social justice oriented and saucy, and it makes me laugh every episode. So make sure you're giving it a listen. And they're reviewing the current X books and putting out lots of special episodes along the way. So I'm thrilled to have you guys here. So to begin, let me have you guys each introduce yourselves, and let us know your pronouns. And the question I'm going to ask today, to have you each answer, which mutant powers would make you amazing at your job in real life?
That's a good one.
Regina, I'm going to let you go first.
Okay. All right. I'm Regina. I am the co-host of the House of X podcast. My pronouns are she, her. I'm fine with they, them as well. Probably I would go with North Star's powers. I mean, being able to go super fast would definitely please my management team.
And my name is Dylan, and yeah, I'm the other host of House of X podcast, and my pronouns are he, him, his. And I'm gonna sound just like Regina because we both do office work. If I had North Star's powers to be able to do things really fast, it would help. So yeah, same thing.
My name is Heather. My pronouns are she, her, hers. And I'm really only interning right now, so I don't know that there would be a need for superpowers at my job currently, but I think it would be cool to be telekinetic like Jean, and so I wouldn't have to, get up, because who wants to do that?
My name is Chad. I said he, him, his earlier. I'm a therapist in my day job, so I would choose empath's powers. Empath from the Hellions, where I can just, with consent, I presume, alter people's emotional memories around their trauma and make therapy a much more pleasant experience for everyone. And I feel better now. It would be so much easier that way. Do you guys want to talk just a little bit about House of X and what you guys are doing there and what's coming up?
Sure.
Sure.
Dylan, do you want me to do it, or do you want to do it?
We can split it up.
Okay.
We usually do weekly reviews of the newer X-Men comics that came out the previous week. And we just do a deep dive in any thing that has an X-Men character or a mutant in it. So even though we do the weekly reviews of just the X-Men books, if they show up in another Marvel title, we try to at least read it quickly and just give a breakdown of, hey, Wolverine showed up in the Runaways and did this type of thing. But then we, from time to time, do episodes that we call random fandom episodes, and I will let Regina explain those.
So when we started our podcast, something we wanted to do is give other parts of the fandom a bigger voice in the X-Men community. So cosplayers, drag queens, artists, just general fans. You know, we've had a lot of different people kind of just come visit with us. We've done reviews with some of our fans, some fans of the X community. We've had the voice of Rogue from the animated series on, which was great. Lenore Zan is amazing. She's so fun and so sweet, so kind. We also have done interviews with some of the creators for the Indigenous Voices issue. So some of the professionals. We've interviewed Zeb Wells. So we're having a great time just kind of touching on all different parts of the fandoms, artists, you know, friends, fans, whoever wants to be part of the show. There's probably a place for you there. So.
And
go ahead.
I just wanted to add, when it comes to the Marvel Voices books, those are very important to me and Regina. We did have 4 or 5 different creators that were on that Voices issue on our show. And then we did a special episode where we had 2 African-American guests on when we did a Marvel Legacy Voices issue, which was about African-American heroes. And we also try to educate people as well. And we had an episode, actually, I don't think it was a podcast episode. We have a YouTube channel as well, but we had a YouTube episode where we had a roundtable with just like 10 or 11 different people of color, just talking about people of color in comics. And we had a special episode about the Women of Marvel episode where we had 4 women on with us. And just to give a plug of something we have coming up later on this week, we have another episode for the new Marvel Voices Pride issue that came out. And we have a handful of LGBTQ plus guests on with us to review that book.
As a fan of your podcast, I'm having so much fun, and I so appreciate the careful commentary. For example, Karma being resurrected with her robotic leg, and the discussion about able-bodiedness and ableism. I mean, there's a lot of really beautiful things happening. So I'm so thrilled to have you guys here again. Thank you for all the great work you're doing.
Thank you.
For the purpose of today, we're going to be launching into X-Men number 9. I am going to presume you guys have never read the original run of the X-Men. I know Heather hasn't.
I've read bits and pieces of it, but way long ago, and I don't remember it at all.
I've read bits and pieces of it, and I think it a bit more pieces than Regina, but yes, a long time ago.
So I am a Marvel handbook writer from years ago. And so I got to like throw myself into deep continuity, and I read all of the original stuff. And I have such a fondness for the weird, terrible 60s comics that set up everything. But they're so problematic. And so primarily we've had guests coming over who are X-Men fans, but not generally from the comics. Heather, do you want to talk a little bit about your X-Men fandom?
So I grew up on the movies. At least I remember watching the first one a lot. And my dad was always a fan of comics, and so I always kind of grew up with comics as, you know, a general thing. I knew most of the superheroes' names, even if I didn't know a whole lot of their backstory or anything like that. But it's been a lot of fun getting to get into X-Men, like from the beginning, even though, as Chad said, it's a little problematic and it's real ridiculous, but we love it.
As I'm reading these originals, Heather, I can hear your voice making the sound pretty consistently, which makes me happy. I was also going to comment quickly before we begin. I've been watching, I have sons that are 12 and 9, and we've been watching the original 90s cartoon, and I haven't seen it in years and years. And the season 5, we're in the season 5 now, and the animation is not great. But hearing like you talked about Rogue's actress voice, like I've been watching the old episodes with her. It's really fun to go back and relive. So let's begin. I'm going to hold this up since we have a camera. We have X-Men number 9. There is the cover we're going to be talking about. Stanley and Jack Kirby really love to pack a whole bunch of characters into these old original issue covers. If you count the characters along the top, I think we have like 16 different people here. What are you guys' thoughts on the cover as we begin?
Very busy. It's a very busy cover. Like there's so much going on. Like, where do your eyes like go first?
Yeah, when you have panels on the cover, it's too much.
My eyes are drawn to Lucifer, who, what is going on here with his like green and purple? It's just horrific.
He looks like a frog in a suit. Like the green makes it look like it's his skin.
Yeah, I thought he was a lizard man at first.
The Incredible Hulk in issue number 2 fights a group called the Toadmen, and he immediately makes me think of the Toadmen. Heather, what do you notice first?
So I mean, like Regina said, there's so much happening. But I think very first I see Ant-Man, because he's so much bigger than I ever think that I know that that's his power. Like he changes sizes and it's not just being small, but it's so strange for me to see him so big, because I think of him as, same size as the Wasp, who is missing from the cover, by the way.
Presumably they're just real small.
I hope so.
What is Jean doing over in the corner? There's like that's a strange pose. She's got like her knees up and she's launching herself over a wall or something. I don't know what's happening.
She probably downloaded a gymnast and just went for it.
The one thing that I thought was really confusing, it's neat with the corner box art of having Angel like not be in it, but this cover almost makes it seem like there's 2 angels like on the cover, and that bothered me because I was really confused.
They're kind of
like, wait, why is he in 2 spots? Oh, he's not in the corner. That's why.
And we'll talk more about this, but I also love like Professor X's like battle tank wheelchair. I think it's kind of amazing.
I know.
Like military grade wheelchair.
Yeah. So let's take a moment to set up the Avengers for just a minute. We'll do this more in the issue, of course. The X-Men was launched as an original team, all original characters. The Avengers predates this book by a little bit, and it did something kind of Justice League-like in that it brought in a bunch of individual heroes and put them together in one team book. So they all have previous histories. The original Avengers included the Hulk, Ant-Man, who is pictured as Giant Man in this book, Thor, and Iron Man, and the Wasp. So Ant-Man had his own title. It wasn't titled after him, but he was appearing in, I believe, Tales to Astonish. I may have that slightly wrong. And the Wasp was kind of his younger, flighty girlfriend who's a fashion designer, and he gives her powers one day, and it's just, they go on these series of misadventures. Ant-Man and the Wasp's villains are the most ridiculous villains in all of Marvel Comics history. They're absolutely ridiculous. The Human Top, the Living Eraser. I mean, they're these bizarre villains. It's definitely worth a read. So the Avengers assemble to fight Loki. Hulk very quickly quits the team, and then a few issues later, Captain America joins. And so we have these heroes who have a long legacy in Marvel. But this issue is incredibly important for the X-Men mythos in that we have the Avengers appearing in an X-Men book. It really solidifies them as part of the Marvel Universe. This happened a couple issues ago with the Submariner, but this is even bigger because the Avengers were in many ways, outside of the Fantastic Four, the Marvel flagship title. So when we go back and read this, we have to realize how significant this is. What do you guys think about the original Avengers team as they appear here?
I mean, they're the ones that I think of when I think of the Avengers. Even though I have never in my life been a fan of Thor, he still is what comes to mind when I think of the original Avengers team.
Yeah, when I was reading this, or whenever I think of the original Avengers, I always think of, I don't necessarily know where the statue is, but somewhere in Marvel history, there was always a statue of the original Avengers team. So I always just think of that statue in comic panels when I think of the original Avengers, and it was all of these characters.
Yeah, that statue came in. When they canceled the original Avengers run in the 90s, and they did the whole Heroes Reborn universe. I don't know if you guys are familiar. After they brought all the heroes back into the regular Marvel universe, Kurt Busiek and George Perez took over and relaunched the Avengers. And that's where that statue debuted. It was like their way of honoring the original team. It's this big, huge, impressive art piece that's like on their front lawn. It's kind of great. My sons looked at this and they're like, where's Hawkeye? Like, where's Black Widow? Like, that's they come in later.
Noobs. Just kidding.
Literal noobs. So as we begin on page 1, we got a big splash page again. Moving into page 2, we find the X-Men on a ship headed toward Europe, which, even though Professor X can afford battle tank wheelchairs and helicopters, for some reason he's like, I urgently need your help. Please get on the slowest vessel to Europe to come.
Right?
Get on a boat that's going to take you at least a month to get here.
Yes, and we have. Oh, go ahead.
It was the 60s. They had airplanes.
Yeah.
We have to presume that the boat is named the Titanic 2, because panel 1, it is like full steam ahead for an iceberg. What happens next?
We get to see Cyclops blast the iceberg, and it's awesome, but also, like, the biggest part of icebergs is underneath the water. So you're still going to hit it.
You know, I read the first couple of panels and then I was like, wait, let me learn about icebergs. So then I went and did a Google search, and I was probably researching icebergs for like an hour and a half.
Thank you, because now we have fun facts on all of our episodes. So this probably means that one of our upcoming episodes, her fun fact is going to be about icebergs.
I love that.
Yeah.
My personal theory. Oh, go ahead, Heather.
I was just gonna say, isn't most of an iceberg under the water?
Yeah.
And so like just blasting the top of it, that's not gonna do anything for you.
My personal theory is I think the X-Men were pissing Iceman off somehow, and he just zapped the floating iceberg in front of the ship to scare everybody. That's my theory. I love, so we have Cyclops using this full blast. He's exhausted, and Angel's starting to help him away. And we have this couple named Samuel and Matilda, who are talking about how in their generation, they were much hardier. They should have taken their seasick pills. That's my favorite Lee and Kirby stuff, is when you get these bit characters in the corners. It makes me so happy. Like, I want to see a series about Samuel and Matilda now.
Being hardy youngsters.
And I mean, don't we, you know, it really irritates me when I'm watching online discourse and people who are in my generation are like, well, kids in my era were respectful. And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like,
they were not. Teenagers in no era have been fully respectful.
Yeah, whenever I hear Make America Great Again, I think great again for who?
yeah.
For Samuel and Matilda.
Exactly.
That's who they're talking about.
Like the 90s, like, do y'all not remember drive-bys? Like, oh, well, all these children are getting murdered. Yeah, like they've always been murdered because crime is a thing. And we had like a whole conversation about gang violence in the 90s. It was always on the news. Like, y'all don't remember that? How we lost so many well, I don't know about y'all. I lost a lot of classmates. I grew up in Little Rock and it was bad. But yeah.
So we see the X-Men returning to their cabin to convalesce Cyclops. Iceman generates some ice cubes, and Jean telekinetically lifts them up to rest them against his forehead, because
he's very reminiscent of Professor X being an invalid, and they're like, oh, we got to take care of the professor. Now it's, oh, we got to take care of Scott.
And then let me just read Jean's thought bubble out loud because it's very relevant. Oh, Scott, my heart just breaks when I see you so pale, so shaken. If only I could comfort you with my arms, my lips, but I know I mustn't. As our acting leader, you've no time for thoughts of ... romance. Oh, Stanley loved him a Shakespearean love story with lots of tragedy mixed in. What do you guys think about Jean?
Oh, Jean. Although, let me say, I like her dress. I don't like the green dress. If you listen to our podcast, you know I complain about it all the time. But this dress is really cute. But I'm like, honey, what are you doing with the ice cubes? Because are you just going to hold them against his skin? That's uncomfortable. You need to be able to shift it around. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, she has a green scarf on. She could use that. Oh, her thought bubble continues. She says, if only we were ordinary humans free to follow the urgings of our hearts. The urgings is something. But I mustn't allow myself such hopeless dreams. Yeah, there's a lot there. And these two have like a 30-year back and forth. Do we love each other? No, we don't. Their
just get your shit together.
Look, I read fast. So the next line is Warren saying, we'll be docking. And I jumped to the next word, soon. And I was like, oh my God.
Does everyone know what docking is? Because are we all familiar?
I'm surprised Regina knows what it is. I can't.
So Heather and I are in Utah, and there is a large Mormon school here called BYU, and it's the whole save yourself for marriage thing. And there's reputation that the students will dock because they do not consider it full sexual intercourse. Docking is when you just stick it in and don't do anything. So it's like a way
it's so pointless
without breaking the rules.
I can't.
Woo, it got warm.
This is definitely, I actually was not, I guess I was thinking of a completely different type of docking, but.
What docking were you thinking of, Dylan?
Dylan, I'm going to let you take that because.
it's, do you seriously not know, or are you just making me say this out loud, Chad?
I am not sure if I know or not, actually.
To be fair, they're from Utah, so they probably don't.
It's when there's two gay men, and if one of them is uncircumcised.
Oh, yes. I have.
Yes, you put the penises together, and the person that's uncircumcised takes their foreskin and covers the other one.
As a gay male, yes. However, I did not.
That's why it was like, wait, aren't you a gay man? I'm pretty sure all gay men know what docking is.
I know. I was like, wait, now I'm lost.
They're both references to docking are hilarious, and now I would be embarrassed because although I have a PG-13 sense of humor, thank you for schooling me once again.
Oh my God.
Sorry.
Oh no, I'm very pleased. In the time travel series, if you guys have read the Bendis stuff where they go to the far future, Jean and Scott discover this like tragic turn to their love story, and it ends very, very badly. And so Jean like willfully is like, no, we're not going to date. And she tries to date Beast for a minute, and then Scott goes off in space and dates some girls for a minute, but then they kind of reconcile before they come back to the past again. So there's more weight to these like unrequited love thoughts between them, the poor things. Bendis did a pretty fun job with that story, I thought, actually. Have you guys read the all new X-Men run?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept, although it went on like several years too long.
Too long.
Agreed.
Okay, so Professor X. Oh, we got to talk about Beast real quick. Coming in with his like thermos full of iced tea. He's like, leap, bend, here, let me hand it to you with my foot. It's so over the top. And then Professor X is reaching out with a mental summoning. He is in Europe in a cave. in some sort of pulley system is lowering him into a base under the Balkans, where he has found Lucifer's secret base. What do you guys think of battle action Professor X here? I want a toy, first of all.
You know, this reminded me of a Ninja Turtle episode for some reason. I have this vague recollection of like this would fit perfectly in the Ninja Turtle aesthetic.
I agree. I don't remember that particular episode though.
It was probably just the tank, you know, that goes through.
It's just weird. Why have we never seen this battle ready wheelchair ever again? Like this would have, it looks like it would have come in way more handy than his hovering chair that we're used to, or even just a regular wheelchair. Why is this not his go-to?
And it's very fashion forward. We got like the red skull cap and the blue jacket. There's a lot going on here.
Maybe he uses his image inducer so that we don't know that that's what it is.
That's true. Maybe he's had it all along.
An image inducer on a wheelchair. No,
what's the point?
Regina.
He's been all kinds of creepy the whole series. That wouldn't surprise me. We see Professor X running down a hallway, which then gets turned into fire. But luckily, his wheelchair is equipped with hydraulic extendo arms to keep him from landing in the lava. Lucifer then activates an artificial dust devil, because that's the most effective way to catch someone in a cave, is by sending a tornado at them to bring Professor X all the way there. Share your thoughts on Mr. Lucifer with his artificial dust devil.
Well, like, first of all, they talk about later how is Lucifer a human?
He is not, but it doesn't reveal that in this issue.
Okay, because it says later they reference him as a human. But so, because I was like, if that's the case, then what is he doing? I don't understand the need for a secret lair in the heart of the Balkans. And also, how do you make an artificial dust devil that solidifies around someone and imprisons them?
Not only does
That's not how something works.
Not only does it solidify, it hardens. There's a lot of unfortunate words in this.
I think we passed the one that says throbbing, and
there's a few more throbbings. And yeah, when we get to Thor's hammer, that's a whole different combination.
Oh yeah.
So Lucifer is pictured here as like a big X-Men villain, like the arch foe of Professor X. He's been mentioned a couple times before. He's a man in garish dark green and a giant purple cape with matching boots and gloves. And I think he's being professed to be like a very strong foe for Professor X. Now we will see him a number of times.
He's the one that Professor X says that he's the one that took the ability of his legs.
Correct. It won't come back until X-Men number 20, which is still a while, but they finally will tell how Professor X lost the use of his legs. Even though in issue 1 he said he lost the use of his legs as a child. He's lying about it, apparently. But
he's such a liar because Charles is a dick.
But Lucifer seems to be being built up to be a huge X-Men villain who's obviously faded into obscurity over the years. What did you guys think about Lucifer as a threat in this issue?
He didn't seem like a threat at all. Like,
yeah,
those panels of Professor saying that he needed to find him and he's the one that caused this and blah, it makes it, Xavier speaks like he's talking about apocalypse or something. And then we get there and he's just like this dude that's made a few robots and things. And then he gets mad when the X-Men and the Avengers break his toys. And then he runs away. Like, how do you not have like henchmen and things working for you? Like, you are not that big of a threat. You're just a dude that lives in a cave.
Lucifer warns at Professor X right away, like, if you stop my heart, a giant bomb will go off and basically destroy the planet. And then he admits later that he spent like 10 years building this bomb in this cave, which is just, again, 1960s deliciousness. We've got this alien hanging out in a cave in Europe, just building the bomb for a decade. I don't know. He comes across as pretty ridiculous to me, even more so than the Vanisher. And we definitely have a lot of feelings about the Vanisher here at Graymalkin Lane. But he's just ridiculous. Heather, did you enjoy Lucifer?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, he's definitely built up more than I think is necessary, but he came up with a good plan to stop Professor X from killing him, if we're being real, like, because Professor X, for all his faults, and he has many, he obviously isn't willing to set off this bomb that would basically cause an apocalypse of the Earth. And so, I mean, for all intents and purposes, Lucifer has accomplished what he planned to by stopping Professor X in his tracks, but you know, Professor X will always find a way around that because he's a master manipulator.
Yeah, he's a credible threat when you think about planetary destruction, or at least the destruction of the continent. When we flip the page, we have a geography issue. The Avengers and X-Men are landing in a Bavarian village, which would be like Germany, right? But Professor X is in the Balkans, which is like all the way across Europe. But, you know, let's just assume that they're in the same place for the purpose of this issue. Thor is very phallically twirling his hammer around as he talks about having followed some strange impulses that make his hammer quiver, and how his goal is now near at hand. He just is hanging out, like polishing his hammer at Avengers Mansion, and suddenly he's like, "Oh, my hammer's quivering. We need to go to Europe right now." Like, do you guys enjoy Thor and his hammer?
I mean, I enjoy Thor's hammer, but not in the sense of this comic. And I don't know older Avenger comics. Is that how they would like start submissions? Would Thor's hammer just start wiggling and then they're like, "Oh, let's follow it"? That
I don't know.
I don't know those books, but I don't think that's what happened. So
a unique plot device here where something in Lucifer's machines are activating the Uru in his hammer. I don't know. It's he's posing with it too. Like that panel of him landing, he's got like full hammer, like standing straight out and proud in front of him. Then it's up in his hand, like two-hand grip up here.
Yes, it's very big and takes two hands to handle. It's I like things like that.
I don't know.
I'm so sorry.
Dylan, how is it possible that you're trying to out dirty me? Normally, I'm the dirty one.
When we appear on other people's podcasts, I turn into you.
We're just fanning ourselves back here. No, I love it. So there's a really incredible image from a Thor comic book. I brought this up with Heather once, where Jane Foster, who later becomes Thor many, many years later, is just dreaming about how if Thor would just let her take care of him like a woman should. And in the dream, she's like polishing his hammer with a rag. Like if only he would let me be here. I'll find it and post it sometime. It's maybe it's the most stunning image Marvel has ever had.
I love this.
So the Avengers are looking for this threat. They don't know what it is. And a man in an amazing green plaid suit tries to drive through, and they are so over the top in trying to get this man to go away. They're like threatening him, get out. Wasp jumps on his head. The poor guy, like he just booms away, of course. I kind of want the green plaid suit though. I think it's kind of amazing.
As long as you get the matching hat.
What's that?
As long as you get the matching hat.
Yes. Oh, of course. I think the hat is a key accessory to this outfit. The X-Men have now arrived in the same village, and they realize there is something going on. They seem very nervous about showing their powers until Angel just like throws his shirt off and goes flying around to look for Professor X. And I'll admit, Angel's looking pretty good in this picture. He's got like the tight tank top on. He's all winged out. You know, he's doing it for me here. I kind of like it. Anyone
Definitely
else?
a level of hotness that Scott doesn't have.
Not until he's like in the skin tight blue. Scott does it for me sometimes, but yeah, Angel looks pretty good here. Dylan, who's your X-Men crush? Is it Warpath? I think that's obvious, actually, now that I'm asking that question.
It is.
But he almost got dethroned by...
There's multiple people who almost dethroned him. We could be here all day.
You've been a little thirsty for Bishop lately, if I'm recalling.
Bishop, Dakin, Grey Crow, sometimes Wild Child. It's a mess.
And ladies, do you have X-Men crushes right now?
All mine are lady crushes, and my main squeeze is apparently Madeline Pryor because of the underboob.
Oh, she does give a serious underboob.
Yeah.
And Heather, for you?
I mean, it's uncharacteristic of me because it's not usually my type, but honestly, Emma Frost kind of does it for me. Which is weird because that's not usually the type of girl that I'm like, oh yeah. I feel like Kitty Pryde's more my type, but lately Emma Frost has been doing it for me.
I can definitely see Kitty Pryde in the roller derby with you before I can Okay, so we're back in Lucifer's secret cave. He is unleashing his thermal bomb. If his heartbeat stops, it's gonna blow up a continent. So he kind of just leaves Professor X on the ground here. Professor X shoots his astral body outside of his physical form to go save the X-Men because Lucifer has unleashed a destructive ray of some kind that's going to kill them.
Ionic ray.
Yes, which is the most dangerous kind. I think Wonder Man has ionic powers.
Yeah.
So I think he does.
Yeah. So maybe it's this. I don't know. Maybe he got this technology from Baron Zemo. Anyway, Professor X warns the X-Men just in time, and again, we see kind of a credible threat. Giant thermal bombs and continent destruction are a little bit frightening. He's like upping Magneto's game. Magneto has taken over countries, but we have someone threatening to destroy entire continents here. The X-Men are all getting ready for action. They run into the woods to put on their costumes, and we have an adorable scene with Cyclops almost falling in a hole, and Jean Grey narrowly saving him with a piece of wood.
No, Jean almost falls in the hole.
Is it Jean?
Yeah, because he says, "Look out, you'll stumble into that hole in front of you."
I totally misread that. I thought she saved Cyclops, but she saved herself
instead. It makes no sense. Why doesn't she just use her power to pick herself up?
Yeah, that's what I thought, but it would have made more sense if it had been Cyclops. Like that would have made sense, but that's not what we got.
I feel like that's an entirely pointless scene. Like, why?
Yeah, I don't think she's learned how to levitate herself yet, now that I'm thinking about it. But if you're running and there's a hole right in front of you, do you pause in mid-run to telekinetically bring the over and place it under your foot? And then, whew.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of effort going into this millisecond thing.
My favorite is actually the Beast getting ready. I love his little monologue that he does to himself.
He likes his words.
He's like, and now the curtain rises on Act 1. The stage is set. The cast is assembled. And unless I am grievously mistaken, the Beast is destined to play a stellar role.
So Heather does not read the comics. Dylan and Regina, isn't it nice to see the Beast having fun? Do you miss this Beast?
I do. And, I could actually see him making this same fucking monologue right now. But in a totally different context.
even though he's a monster right now, that doesn't mean that he's not having fun.
That's true. I
don't know. He kind of is having fun, which is the problem.
We haven't seen Fun Beast since like before Hope Summers came into the picture. I feel like it's been years and years. It's been a long time. I miss Fun Beast. So these are fun to read because Fun Beast is here. So Professor X has now assembled the X-Men, and he's just kind of hanging out up there astrally, even though he left his like unprotected body in a cave with a super villain who wants to murder him. But Lucifer doesn't notice. I don't know what's happening there. The X-Men have been ordered to hold off the Avengers because if they attack Lucifer, it might destroy the planet. But even though Professor X has like time for full-on speeches, he cannot tell the X-Men why they need to hold off the Avengers, because you know that would be unnecessary. I don't know. They're just doing it because he said so. My long-standing theory is he just likes to fuck with them and see how far they can go, and if they're gonna die or not. I don't know. He's ridiculous.
And we have to remember that they're teenagers when this is happening. Like, he's just messing with a bunch of teenagers. Hey, go get on this boat and sail across the sea without an adult. And yeah.
A few weeks ago, we reviewed the issue where the X-Men go up to Asteroid M to fight the Brotherhood, and they almost die in space. And Professor X couldn't join them because he was too sick to use his powers. But at the end of the issue, he's like, actually, I do have my powers still. I was just testing you. Like, oh, fuck you.
Charles is a dick.
But you know, on this page, I have to say, so we start this trope of heroes battling heroes, and apparently that trope is never going to end.
Never has. But will.
Yeah, but we get this wonderful line from Cap saying, "We fight for the same cause. Let us join forces." And I was like, oh, after like 50, 60 years, Cap is still the same.
Which we hope for in the current comics. We hope Captain America is going to come around. So the X-Men are forced to fight the Avengers, you know, if you want to call it forced. And, you know, frankly, as a reader, I want to see these two teams fight anytime they meet. I want to see them beat the shit out of each other. Like, who's going to win? As a fan, don't you want to see that every time, even though the plot device is overused?
Kind of, yeah.
I wanted to point out something. I'm not sure, because I am sure that we all read this on like different like platforms or different books or whatever, and the coloring is a little different, I think, in every type of medium. And I'm looking at it on Marvel Unlimited, and when the Avengers show up, I don't know if Marvel just missed this, but like, I can't see it. I don't know if I can get this to show up very well on my end, but okay, Thor's pants are not there. Like, he has booty shorts on.
In mine, Thor has blue pants on.
It's blue.
Okay. See, in mine, he does not.
I kind of like Thor in booty shorts, though.
Yeah, when I got to that page, I was like, wait a second. So I went back and I'm like, okay, no, this is just a mess up on one panel. And I was like, I kind of like it. Can we put Thor in booty shorts instead?
Thor should always be in booty shorts.
Yes, and then maybe Heather will like him.
I don't know. It's a pretty, you know, decades-long dislike of Thor that I'm not sure that simple booty shorts can fix.
Wait, why don't
it's
you
worth
like
a shot, though.
I've never liked Thor. Like, growing up, I read a couple of his comics, and Thor comics were always my least favorite. And then when they made the first Thor movie, I was like, why are they making a Thor movie? That's so ridiculous. My brother was like, because they're going to do the Avengers. And I was like, well, fine, but why does it have to be Thor?
My sons will constantly ask me comic book questions. Who would win in a fight, this person or this person? And I've got the dad answer. I always answer, it depends on the storyteller, because frankly it does. They'll say, do you like this character? Well, it depends on the storyteller. And they, like, every time my 9-year-old will be like, do you think Thor Iron Man would? Never mind, it depends on the storyteller, Dad. I got it. Like, become the Avengers. So
why do we talk to you? Let's go ask other dad.
But Thor himself, under the right storytellers, like Walt Simonson's run on Thor is one of the best things that's ever hit comic books. It's so good, but it depends on the storyteller. Sometimes he's very, very terribly written. So the fight breaks out. We have Cyclops hitting Thor's hammer out of his hand, Angel trying to grab Thor's hammer off the ground, but he can't budge it.
He's not worthy.
Never touch another man's hammer with both hands unless you are worthy. How do you know if you're worthy? You won't know until you try. Captain America throws his shield, Beast grabs it with his feet, and then does the weirdest pose with the shield above his back. I don't know what's happening in this picture.
I think he's offering himself up as a bondage slave, but you know.
Then here comes Hank picking him up.
Toss a couple ropes in, and he's all ready. He's all trussed up.
Yeah.
We then have the giant man scolding Beast by telling him to go swallow another dictionary, which is the best burn in the whole comic book for me.
Yes.
So I have a brother, we don't get along great, but he had a phase for years where he would just use large words unnecessarily constantly. Like his voicemail message, you know, instead of like, hey, you've reached me, leave a message, he'd be like, salutations from the eldest brother in the family line. Please leave, like it would be ridiculous. It'd be like all of these giant words that he didn't know what they meant. And if you ever confronted him on it, he would say, you're just jealous of my verbiage. And this went on for years. And one day we looked up the word verbiage, and it literally means unnecessary vocabulary. So anyway, giant man telling Beast to go swallow a dictionary. He's just jealous of Beast's verbiage. That's my theory.
Aren't both their names Hank?
Yes, and they're both Hanks.
Yes.
I think there's some Hank envy happening, perhaps. What do you guys think about the big fight between the Avengers and the X-Men? Do you have favorite moments?
I mean, the fact that they had the two women fight each other and the one woman pulls the other one's hair. Like, that's the fight that we're going to have the two women have.
I mean, honestly, though, I cannot fight to save my life. So if I was going to fight another chick, that's what I would be doing, pulling hair.
Well, okay, but if we're being real, girl fights are worse than boy fights.
They really are.
I worked at a junior high for 6 years, and we, like, any teacher could tell you, like, if you can just get the boys separated, like, if they break eye contact, it's fine. They'll walk away. You do not get in the middle of a girl fight because they will not end it.
I love the Wasp. I think she's great, and especially in the old 60s comics, she's constantly flirting with everyone and trying to make giant men jealous. So like her humor about herself, like, I should be able to handle Jean as long as no one gives her a fly swatter. It makes me laugh pretty hard. We've also got Captain America like launching Cyclops into the air, like both hands pressing him above his head.
Yeah, he's like full bench pressing Cyclops. How did Cyclops even let you get that close to just pick him up?
Okay, but haven't you always dreamed about being bench pressed by Captain America?
I have.
I will fully admit, as a teenager, having some like fantasies about Captain America. It's been a while. Well, until the movies came out, and then we've got is it Chris Evans who plays Captain? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. No. Yeah. He can bench press me anytime. That's fine.
Yes. That's America's ass. Just saying.
I will catch his shield with my feet and present myself like Hank just did any day to Chris Evans.
You, Dylan, are worthy of Captain America's hammer. If he. Oh, by the way, Captain America is worthy of Thor's hammer. We have.
Yes. Yes, he is.
Absolutely.
He can double grab it anytime.
Yeah.
Okay, so in back in the cave, we have Professor X being so much as he's like strategizing a way to slow Lucifer's mind without disrupting his heart rate. And he's using lots of big words. I must circumvent the portion of the medulla oblongata nearest the spinal column as I penetrate the most sensitive area of the cerebellum. I don't know brain science very much, but there's so much happening here. Although
Yeah,
I loved that line.
When you use all those big words and then you throw in there penetrate, it makes it sound very sexual.
He's mind fucking Lucifer, isn't he?
Yes.
But now that I think about it, doesn't Professor X have his degree in genetics? I believe that's a thing,
Yes.
actually. Maybe he knows what he's talking about.
Well, but then later he says he's no physician. He's like, his heartbeat seems regular, but I am no physician. I cannot be certain. It's like, that is the easiest thing to do, is check someone's pulse.
I'm pretty sure he has his doctorate. I'm nearly positive he has a PhD. I'd have to go double check that. But anyway, we also have the phrase Lucifer's thrusts thrown into this conversation, which again, there's so many phrasing problems here. Once Lucifer is defeated, the X-Men are still battling. Jean Grey's getting a headache, which means she's overextending. She needs maybe to sit down. She had her hair pulled, and now she's, she lifted that little log.
Before the battle.
Now she's twirling some rocks around Iron Man. Like, she's getting tired, y'all. We often have conversations about how she's like the most powerful X-Men, but she's not portrayed.
Yeah, like she's about to faint here, like the Jean that we're used to from the animated series.
Yes. Oh yeah. Tell people about the meme you put together recently, Dylan.
Oh, there was some art made by artist Mark Brooks for an upcoming big event for the X-Men, and you see a bunch of X-Men standing around, and there's some that are knocked out, and Jean is there. And when I first looked at the image, I didn't see her, and I was very happy because I don't like Jean. So I was like, yay, Jean's not in this photo. But then someone's like, no, she's right there, but she's knocked out. And then I was like, oh, that's the Jean we're used to, because we're all used to Jean being passed out from the animated series and just being the worst. So
you put together this like collage of Jean unconscious.
Yes.
It was kind of brilliant. Do you think Iceman in his ice cube, about to be struck by Thor's hammer, do you think he's living his fondest fantasy right here?
Probably.
I mean, he made a big giant wall so he can just watch Thor pound away. So I think he did.
He wants Thor to pound on his ice wall, and he did. His dreams came true. Side conversation for Dylan and Regina primarily. Have you guys read the new Marvel Voices Pride issue yet?
Yes.
Yes.
There is a beautiful, if canonically problematic, scene of Iceman as a teenager coming out to Magneto in it. So we get to go slide that back in, even though it just came out, into this continuity somewhere. Magneto wants to destroy everyone, but Iceman had the wherewithal to speak up about being gay. Did you guys have a react? I'm sure you'll have a lot to say on in your new House of X episode, but what were your thoughts on that scene?
I thought it was cute. I mean, Bobby coming out to Magneto saved the day, but it's really weird. But I think it's cute to have him come out to Magneto, because Iceman's afraid. He's not just afraid of being a mutant, he's afraid of his other secret. And even though it wasn't too much of a secret for Magneto to be Jewish, I mean, in a sense, if the Jewish people could have kept it a secret, then he wouldn't have ended up in a concentration camp. So he understands this whole other thing that people could hate you for. So I thought that was cute.
Well, and a lot of gay people were killed in concentration camps at the same time. So perhaps there's an additional understanding on Magneto's part there.
I think that's really what the story was driving at, is that the whole Nazi regime was not limited to just Jews. There were a lot of other people who were definitely harmed by that entire regime. And that actually continued even after the Jews were freed. There is a documented history of people who were LGBTQ who basically were never freed. And I actually didn't know that until just the other day. And I was like, what? And it was just horrifying and shocking. So I can see how that whole thing would have transpired. But then when you think about putting it into this continuity, how awkward would that be that, in a couple of issues, they're going to be going up against Magneto again? And, is Bobby going to hold back? Like, how does that work?
We can always fall back on Professor X just messing with his memories. I think
Fair.
Professor X is homophobic. Maybe he closeted Bobby a little more with his brain. Coming back to Professor X, the Avengers realize, oh, like the X-Men have got it. We can trust them now. Let's just leave. They kind of just walk away. I think Professor X is fucking with them again. Like, you got to go away, guys. Ding, 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 and they just leave.
They just quickly exit stage right, like middle of the fight.
I love that apparently they have a rotating leadership, because Iron Man says, "Better fall in line behind Cap, Thor. Your time has expired. It's his turn to be group chairman for the week."
That's something that happens in the original comics. They take turns being leaders each week, which is kind of
That's cute. Oh,
yeah.
I didn't know that. That's awesome.
So the Avengers depart, and just kind of a continuity note here. It's not long after this that all of the original Avengers quit, and Captain America recruits 3 supervillains to fill out the roster of his team, including Hawkeye, Quicksilver, and the Scarlet Witch. So there's deeper ties between the X-Men and Avengers, and in about 15 years or so, the Beast is going to join their team, and he has a long stint with the Avengers as well. There's also a huge series from a few years back where it's the Avengers versus the X-Men, which is kind of a fun read, although it goes a little far. They're fighting over the Phoenix Force, and a lot of crazy shit happens. So yeah, these 2 teams have a lot to do with each other over the years. Did you guys read AVX?
yes.
Did you enjoy that?
I did. I liked it, but again, it was something that went on too long, or just maybe had elements of the story that were not needed.
Yeah, here's one series, and then let's tie it into like 75 other comic books. So it goes on a little bit. Okay, Professor X summons the X-Men down into the cave so they can join him. And there's a line where he says that he has mentally checked every inch of the route, which, again, phrasing, there's something so inappropriate. But they climb up on the giant hydraulic bomb, and this is not how telepathy works, but Professor X is able to like look inside the bomb and see where like the trigger is. Last issue, or the last few issues, Magneto has been projecting himself astrally and like reading minds, and now Professor X is like using magnet powers. I don't know. It's
Their bond is strong.
Maybe this is where Onslaught got started. Onslaught's like,
I was gonna say they had a baby with their minds. So
the love child of these 2. Maybe they like,
yes.
I don't know. Maybe it's a little more homoerotic than we thought. Maybe they share powers and other things. How do they finally defeat? Well, excuse me. Professor X like predicts how Lucifer's bomb would destroy the world. It's going to melt the ice caps and like blanket the planet in tidal waves. So how do they end this predominant threat?
By destroying the fuse with Cyclops' powers.
Mm-hmm. He has to like
while the deadly giant bomb begins to heave and throb.
There's heaving and throbbing and emanations, but the optic blast carefully triggers the fuse, and the X-Men save the day, of course. And then they let Lucifer go. They're like, "You tried to destroy the planet. You're my arch nemesis. See you later. Have a good day."
Yeah. Speaking of how we were just talking about Magneto and then Lucifer, do all of Xavier's villains just shop at the same store? Like, why are we wearing the same outfit as Magneto?
We talked about this in episode 1, I think. Marvel seems to have particular color schemes that associate with like villains. But like the X-Men are all blue and yellow, and all of their enemies are like red and purple and green. And like every one of Spider-Man's villains in the first few years of his comic are all purple and green. Like it's an ongoing theme. Like if you wear purple and green, you are evil as fuck. That's the message that is delivered over and over. Unless you're the Hulk.
Yes.
Who's purple and green also. Why did Professor X let Lucifer go? Any theories?
Well, he says, because we X-Men are pledged never to cause injury to a human being, no matter what the provocation. Which is why I was asking earlier if he's human or not.
He's not. He's a member of an alien race called the Quist. We're going to get more of him shortly, so I don't want to say too much because it will spoil the original run. But also, they could tie him up with ice ropes.
Yeah, Or like arrest him, take him to some sort of authorities and say he literally just almost blew up the whole world, put him in jail.
The Avengers were just there. He could have just said, hey, Avengers, this guy is a planetary threat. This is what y'all do. Handle that shit. I mean, what the fuck?
Mentally put him to sleep and like bring him back with him and lock him up. I don't know. It seems very, very irresponsible for a group of heroes to let this this maniac just leave peacefully. It's very strange. We get a new writer on the X-Men pretty soon. Roy Thomas takes over, and we get more of Lucifer shortly, and his ties to Professor X's origins. But yeah, he's a bizarre, very forgettable villain in the long scheme of things, more than the others that we've covered, like Eunice and the Vanisher, who at least have a staying place in the X-Men mythos. This guy's he's just ridiculous.
Yeah. I think they realized they're like, we gave him this amazing name of Lucifer and he really kind of sucks. I think there might actually be another Lucifer in Marvel. Maybe I'm wrong, but.
Not that I can think of off the top of my head. I have a lot of obscure Marvel trivia in my brain, but that doesn't.
Yeah, that's why I said that with a question mark at the end. But
I think of Cinderella's cat. That's Lucifer. And then there's the series on Netflix with the really hot guy that I've never seen.
I've never seen it either.
And then we get a pinup of Jean, everybody. What are your thoughts?
She didn't sign it like the others did.
What's that?
She didn't sign it like the others did.
Oh yeah, she didn't sign it this time. Do you enjoy her? What do you think of her here?
I mean, I want to know who this picture is because it looks like it's Xavier, and that's a little creepy.
In the first issue, we have Jean admiring herself in the mirror as she, talks about how well her costume fits. She's feeling herself here. She's body positive. She's lifting a plant and a picture and a box, and immediately afterwards, she got a bad headache.
Yes, then she had to
pass out.
Yeah, she had to go lay down. Like, it makes me think of, I don't know who the artist is, but I'm sure everyone's seen those images online of like some artist made like 90s cartoon Jean where she's like sitting on the couch and she uses her telepathy to go and get her like a soda or something. And it's like, Jean, you could hold all three of those things with one of your hands. You don't need to use your telepathy. Like, just move them on the table. If they're not in the way that you want them, just move them with your hands. Don't use your powers. Stop being lazy.
I wish I could say it got better with Jean right away, but it's not going to happen for a while. She's a background character for quite some time. I think she's there for the boys to flirt with or to save. And that's kind of just how girls were treated in comics back then. I don't know. It's unfortunate, but she's a great character depending on the storyteller.
Okay, Dad.
I hated her for a long time until X-Men Volume 2, number 28, when she kicks the shit out of Sabretooth. And then she became one of my favorites. And I know Dylan still hates her. It's totally fine. But I love her and her evil, problematic twin. So
she's a great character sometimes, but yeah, they don't generally do a lot of great. She's usually a romantic foil, and frankly, my first introduction to her was the '90s in that god awful like yellow blue outfit with the pockets, the one from the cartoon. It's like my favorite like I prefer Lucifer's costume over Jean in the cartoon.
I mean, it was the '90s. Everybody had pockets,
What'd you say, Heather?
But do you prefer the Vanisher's costume over that one?
Kinda, because it's so garish. Have you guys seen Vanisher in X-Men 2? Oof.
Yes.
It's maybe the worst ever, but it's so bad it's good. I don't know.
I mean, it's very villainy. Like, you see him and you're like, that is a superhero villain. So
I called him like a man from Palm Springs with a lot of money, but not a fashion consultant. I don't know. He's my favorite. I don't know. I have
that's a good description. I think that fits.
So if you think about this issue, who was your star player and what was your favorite moment? I'll go first. I think Thor is my favorite character in this comic. He made me laugh out loud the most. Not intentionally, but just all of the hammer jokes make me happy. And my single favorite moment, I think, is when Giant Man tells Beast to go swallow another dictionary. I think that's my standout moment from the issue.
She doesn't have a big part, but I kind of dig the Wasp in this. I just think she seems like she's allowed to be wittier, sassier than Jean, as the other female character, and I'm always for that. And I think the standout moment for me is either Beast's monologue while he's getting ready, or Samuel and Matilda.
Did you notice, we didn't talk about this, but when the Avengers are leaving, Wasp is saying out loud, "It wasn't all a waste. I did get to meet that dreamy angel," who's a teenager, by the way, inappropriate. But then she's thinking, I'm wasting my time. Hank's too smart to act jealous. She's always trying to piss him off by flirting with the other heroes, and makes me happy.
You know, I think Cap is my favorite character. Like, I didn't like Cap for a long time because I thought he was just a giant Boy Scout. And then I found out his role in Civil War, and I was like, wait, now my entire worldview has shifted. I have to figure out what the hell is happening, where my stance is. But in the current comics, we have this moment where he's talking to Dr. Doom, and he's saying, you know, when humanity reaches, you know, more of the universe, I thought it would be all of us together. And I kind of feel like this is just part of who he is. And he says, you know, we're fighting for the same cause. Let's join forces. And that's just who he is, even though the whole AVX thing, I just pretend that didn't happen. But he still has that sense of, you know, let's join forces. We're on the same side and let's do the right thing. Mm-hmm. He was wrong that one time, but we won't talk about that.
Well, he's been wrong a lot of times. I feel like Cap represents like the Republican Party in many ways.
Please don't tell me that.
No, because if you picture this real universe where we have like mutant genocides, he's kind of just willing to overlook the problem most of the time. He doesn't do any pro-mutant work, but when it comes in front of him, he's like, come on, we're good people, like just see the best in all of us and we can work together. And they're like, yeah, our people got slaughtered, man. So I think there's some stories. However, there's a series of Cap adventures that are set in the 1930s before he becomes Steve Rogers, in which he has a gay friend named Arnie Roth. Mm-hmm. And he's like, oh yeah, we love you, no worries. And Arnie comes back into the Cap issues later. So it's kind of a fun old Cap mythos that shows he's like very LGBT supportive as well. So I'm fond of him for that reason.
I think, you know, when you have certain missions, like you can't be everything. Like it's hard to be environmentally friendly and, you know, support certain, you know, maybe minority businesses because they're not necessarily eco-friendly. And then like where does your loyalty come? And I think that he just kind of has this split, you know, focus, and he can't figure out how to focus on this other thing because he's worried about this big stuff over here. And this is just my justification because I have a soft spot for Chris Evans. And in my mind, he is Captain America. But we won't go into all that, or we'll be here literally all day.
I adore Captain America, except when viewed through the lens of the mutants.
Yes, that's fair.
Problematic.
Absolutely fair.
My favorite part of this, I agree with Chad. All the hammer parts of Thor's was entertaining to me, especially that first panel of him flying in hammer first. A standout part for me is the human in the green plaid that gets like bullied in a sense by the Avengers and then scared to death by the X-Men, and then he just drives away, and he probably just like drove off a cliff. Like his day, like he had a very bad day and nobody cares. But I do also want to mention, I love the whole Beast goes swallow another dictionary or something, because I now know that Regina is probably going to continue in our episodes and just say the Beast needs to go swallow another dick and shut up. Regina likes to say dick a lot on our podcast, and she hates Beast. So I feel this guesting on your show has created a monster.
But not the kind of monster he is.
Thank you, Giant Man. Okay, you guys. Well, let's. We like to always get reactions on the cover for next week. I'll just hold it up unless you guys have it there in front of you. Next time we're going to be reviewing the first appearance of Kesar and the Savage Land. What are your thoughts on the initial cover here?
I like it. It's much less busy than this week's cover. And it's clear. There's like clear conflict, clear heroes, clear opponents. So it looks like a fun book.
Mm-hmm.
I love it because I love Khazar and Zabu. And even when I was younger and knew I was gay, I did not like blonde men. But I even had that feeling when I read comics. I didn't like blonde men, but Khazar was the exception. So I love the cover of this next issue.
Jack Kirby drew his legs real good there.
Yeah.
Heather, any thoughts?
He looks kind of like fucking Tarzan, and I don't even know how I feel about this.
The little known fact, but they actually considered calling him fucking Tarzan back in the original book. Because he's clearly a ripoff.
Not just Tarzan, fucking Tarzan.
Fucking Tarzan, yeah. He can be the Lord of my jungle anytime. I'm just saying.
Well, to be fair, there's nothing new under the sun, so it's fine.
You guys, it's been such a pleasure to have you. Where can people find you on social media if they would like to follow you or your podcasts?
Find me on Instagram and Twitter at the Red Queen of X. And our podcast is also on Instagram and Twitter. Just search for House of X podcast.
And if you want to find me individually, you can find me at Warpath_Dylan. That is Warpath_DYLAN on Instagram and Twitter.
Graymalkin Lane's still building up its following, but we are on Twitter actively now under @GraymalkinP P for podcast. And then we're on Instagram as well under Graymalkin Podcast. We're running some daily trivia quizzes and just kind of having a good time as we go. We've got some really fun things coming up in our next few issues with some great guest stars, including some Marvel writers and different creators. So Dylan and Regina, thank you so much for joining us today. Heather, thank you for coming back. Hope you had a great time, and we'll chat with you soon.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. This was fun to talk about the older books.
Thank you. I want you to just take the image of Thor's hammer with you as you depart today. 2 hands on the hammer at all times, should you prove worthy.
I will.
All right, you guys, take care. Have a beautiful day.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.